Excellent.
Hello, Pippa.
Hello, Georgie. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you. Not too bad. I was a bit worried I wasn't going to be able to join you earlier. Actually, we had the most monumental thunderstorm, and I was thinking, oh, please go away, otherwise the internet might drop out. So, but we're here. It's all good.
Has it stopped raining?
It has now. The sun is shining out of a beautiful sky now. You wouldn't have known.
Wow. No, well, we haven't had that. Let's hope we're not going to have that.
No.
So, this practitioner chat is a Q&A for health professionals and health and wellbeing professionals, basically about SIRPA's new training, isn't it?
It is, and it's a slightly different one round. I think a slightly different way around than normal, because normally you're interviewing somebody and asking them questions, and it is a chit chat backwards and forwards. But today you're slightly in the hot seat because there's going to be more questions for you than there are for me. Well, that's what I'm hoping anyway. So
I'm throwing the back at you as well, Pippa, because you've been involved in this whole process as well.
I was just going to slightly skid under that, pretend that hadn't happened, but still, here we are. So yes, the new training went live, what, a week or so ago?
Week ago, last Tuesday. Yes, a week.
Excellent.
Last Tuesday, yes. Yeah.
Excellent. And for those that don't know, SIRPA was the first course for health professionals in our field. And we really just wanted to explain today about what the courses were about, how they work online, allow you to ask any questions that you might have, and we'll tell you a bit more about the training and what it involves. And well, I'm very excited about it. I'm sure you are too, Georgie, but it's been a lot of hard work and love on your part to get particularly the new, well, the updated level 1s and 2s, but also the new level 3 out there. So maybe it would be good to tell people a little bit about the formats of the course.
Yes, yeah. Well, initially, as you know, the SIRPA course was physical, so face-to-face, and that started in 2010. And then we moved it online in 2018, and there were a few reasons for that, but partly because people have been asking, so that's always a good thing. So people have been asking, and we felt if we moved it online, it also would free me up to create a membership, because so many people, as you and I have both found, it's quite isolating working in this field, and especially if we're surrounded by colleagues and family and friends who really don't understand this. And so people were asking for more support, and it wasn't possible while I was running around the country doing courses. And so we did this we get other people training to running the courses as well, which we did start doing, but in the end we decided let's move it online, then we've got more time for the membership as well. So initially we had it in 2 levels. Level 1 was the introductory course, and level 2 the practitioner training. And now we've split that up, and that's really so that we can encourage more or allow more people who are, health and wellbeing professionals who may not be eligible for the practitioner training to be able to become SIRPA-informed practitioners, to be able to support and guide their clients, maybe Pilates teachers, yoga teachers, or massage therapists, holistic therapists, people who can incorporate this and be able to signpost people, their clients, to various things and teach them some basic stuff. So that's what level 1 and 2 do. So level 1 is in essence like the online recovery program that we have for the public, and that is so that's experiential. Now we decided to do that because if you remember, Pippa, a lot of what was in our initial level 1 is in the online recovery program. So we felt let's put it in a different format, because we know that many of us, well, we're all normal, we're all people living a human life, and we all face the same challenges and have similar symptoms. So a lot of the people coming on the training have had mind-body symptoms. And even if they haven't, we all have mind-body sensations, whatever that might be, that's blushing or whatever. So we felt that actually, I think the more we walk the talk and go through this ourselves, the easier it is to pass it on to others, and for people to feel that they're held and understood more. So level 1 is very much experiential. And that's the start of it all. That's the introduction. And that is a requirement before moving on to level 2. And level 3 is requirement is level 1 and level 2 first. So it's very much a stepped journey. So level 2 is much of what was on, some of what was on level 1, but some of the theory that was on level 2, the original level 2. So level 2 now has much more information. It's very comprehensive. More trauma informed, a lot more information for people, more updated. I mean, if we think we launched in 2018, and although we've added stuff to it when we can, we've been limited by the CPD certification service. Otherwise, we keep having to have it recertified. And so actually, although we've added bits to the original level 2 when we can, or the training, now we've been able to significantly shake it all up. We've got nearly 200 references for information that we're sharing in the courses. We've got more resources, we've got more information, and just loads of stuff more on level 2.
And it's increased the hours of CPD too, hasn't it? So level 1, I think, was 10 hours and is now
25.
And level 2 is how many hours ish?
I think is it about 22 and a half?
Yeah.
About 20 and a half. Yeah, I think so.
So from a CPD, from a CPD perspective, I mean, the information is gold. I mean, like you say, the whole experiencing it, the understanding, the introduction of the trauma informed stuff. It's enormous, but it's also, you're looking at, for most of us, we have to do maybe 30 hours of CPD a year. You've got a year and a bit CPD done if you do just level 1 and 2. So that's it's an amazing asset that's very focused, I think, from a CPD perspective.
Absolutely, and it's there for life. So we've only once ever moved platform, but we moved everybody who wanted to onto the new platform. So everybody has access to this. Even people who, if we pull down the old level 1 and 2, there's still that information and more in the new courses anyway. So that makes no difference. So yes, lots of CPD. Level 3 moves on to more of the clinical as well as theory, but level 1 and level 2 are, theory. It's videos, it's audios, written stuff. It's got some information from some of the other global leaders in our field, as well as trauma leaders. Just really trying to bring in as much as we can for people to become far more trauma aware. And really understanding the pain science, the trauma science, the why people end up with chronic pain and other persistent conditions. And as I said, they could be accessed anytime, anywhere, and there's no deadlines. The level 1 and level 2, there's no deadlines. You can just there are little tests.
Yes.
So as you know, we have added in a few tests, but very simple.
And I think also, you're interesting enough, you're saying all of that's included. And I say we briefly touched on the membership a moment ago about how actually you moved it online and that increased the way that the membership could be supported. And alongside the courses, you can join the SIRPA membership, and that gives you access to all those peer connects that happen during the month, and and the group where there's a membership group where people can bring their concerns and raise things and share resources and support one another. So it's not just about the sort of the amazing physical information that's in the course. It's also about the community and about being with people who get it is one of the most, people who understand it, people who are working in the same way, because this information and this approach is quite cutting edge still, and it's still, the paradigm is still shifting. And so actually you do sometimes feel that you're out there on the front of that wave, kind of a bit on your own and a bit kind of trying to shift people's beliefs and understanding, although the science is all there. So actually that membership and that support is a really great part of the whole kind of program, and it comes alongside the courses.
Absolutely, and I think that's still unique in this field. And we are often asked by many people who've done other courses in our field if they can become a member and be listed on the website. And we have to say no, because now there are quite a few different courses, but all different levels, from just sort of 2 or 3 hours to a weekend course, or some with clinical support, some without. And we'd end up having to, assess every single course that there is. So this way we know that everybody who comes to the SIRPA website knows that the practitioners have all gone through the SIRPA training. They may well have done other training as well. Many of us have. But I think it's important to at least know what the standards are. And as you say, yes, there's the membership. People have two months free membership that they can sign up to level 2 or level 3, and not only I think that it's not just a community, it's just a really supportive community, isn't it? It's not just somewhere to go, well, ask this question, because there are loads of Facebook groups, aren't there? Or groups of practitioners or whatever, where you can just go in and ask questions. We have so many members now, like yourself, who is so experienced that everybody brings a different approach. So you put a question in, you get all sorts of responses that are very helpful, no judgments at all. And not only our membership group on Facebook, which is the forum really, but like you say, we have peer support groups, webinars through the month. We now have occupational groups, and I think people are finding that really helpful, because to apply this work will often depend on what our professional background is. So we have groups of occupational groups that are were developed, led and moderated by different people within the membership. So we have a group of physiotherapists, osteopaths, coaches, psychotherapists and counsellors. There's a GP doctors group that's run as well. So that is hugely helpful. And we have monthly CPD webinars, so everybody's always learning. They get a discount on the conference, and then what's coming up next month, Pippa? Our big highlight of the year.
Our CPD weekend, is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Pass the test. We have a brilliant CPD weekend. You're normally in the autumn time, and it's great to get all the people some people are training, some people are interested, some people have done the training, and it's
they have to have done the training or be on the training.
On the training, okay, yeah. and it's just lovely to have because the beauty of the SIRPA approach and the SIRPA training is that it's available to we'll talk a bit more about that when we talk about level 3, about the professions, but there are people from all sorts of different backgrounds. So we have osteopaths, physiotherapists, chiropractors, GPs. There's all sorts of people who have come in from their own profession group to add this training to supplement their knowledge about chronic pain recovery. And it's so lovely, that CPD weekend, where we do a mixture of information and learning and self-care, and just in a wonderful place, and we all get together, and it's just, the community is lovely. It's a really super event. So
it really is. I mean, when we started it all, when I was doing the training initially, we had a day. And that was very much bring someone in, and we booked a room in a hotel that we could all fit in. And then we'd have, discuss case studies. We'd bring somebody in to do something, so we're all learning. But that was very much learning, whereas this is about community. It's like a retreat.
Yeah.
Very much like a retreat. And we have partly, starting the day with mindfulness or with breath work or yoga, whatever we have. Depends each year. And I know the first year we went to Snowdonia, have an amazing place there. We now go to Oxfordshire. But yes, it's a wonderful opportunity for people to connect, and everybody found it was so helpful to not just see each other face to face like here, online like here, but actually to really meet people face to face, and you build bigger connections. We ended up with lots of people buddying up with others, which we always encourage anyway, because it really motivates people and gives you some accountability. So it really helps with that, doesn't it? Finding someone to buddy up with as well.
And I think, as I say, it's the beauty of this training is, like you say, if you become SIRPA informed and you are working with people in, with massage, and you can introduce this as a part of your concept and be informed about it and allow, to share with that, or depending on your qualifications, you can go on and do the level 3. So tell us a little bit more about who can do level 3 and what's in level 3.
Yeah. Well, level 3 is the actual practitioner training course. So this is more clinical. So this, I think this one's 50 hours, and we have about 20 hours theory, 30 hours for the clinical. So that's undertaking case studies and clinical supervision. And I have to say here that the clinical supervision, we only ask for 5 sessions, although membership is minimum of 4 per year for SIRPA practitioners. So having supervision for 4 times a year minimum. And that's sort of ongoing, and that we felt really helps with the safety and ongoing learning, and as people progress in this field. With case studies, we require them to have 5 supervision sessions to support and guide them, as it's like mentoring them through their case studies. Because this is very much clinical work and working with people with trauma, we're working therapeutically, we do have eligibility criteria. And if you remember, Pippa, we tightened these up a few years ago, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Because initially we did start by allowing anybody with a health and wellbeing diploma or qualification, other qualification, to join us. But what we found was that after one person had suggested that it's quite challenging as a Pilates teacher, for example, to start doing the assessments with people who've experienced trauma. It's not always, but sometimes, or working on emotional stuff and personality traits and things. It was very out of their comfort zone. And yes, there's training, but if if that's not already within your scope of practice, then that's even more challenging. So we got together with a group of a lot of the holistic therapists that had half a dozen of them who had already done our training. All of them had gone on and done other training to help them as they got into this work. Sometimes counselling, IFS, but so not counselling, coaching courses and IFS. One did actually start doing a counselling course. So we felt that far better, especially if we now we've just made it simpler, that we've got level 1 and 2 for those people who are not eligible, but we tightened up the criteria for level 3. So basically it is, as you said, doctors, physios, osteopaths, chiropractors, psychotherapists, and counsellors, and also coaches who have done a minimum of a diploma that included working with clients and one-to-one supervision, so that they've had experience working with clients. So some sort of health coaching course. And that's worked really well. And actually for those people doing level 1 and 2, if they're not eligible, the quickest way is actually to go on and do a coaching diploma. Once they can demonstrate eligibility, which they do when they start level 3, they have to upload a certificate to show that they are actually eligible, and then we can unlock the rest of the course for them. So then they can go on and do level 3. And level 3 is set out in a similar way. There's less little tests in level 3, and the reason for this is that all coaching platforms and CPD certification services recommend that you do, at the end of each module or just frequently through the training, you have little review tests. So it's not, oh my God, it's a test and you're going to pass this 100% test. It's really about, this is just stuff you've just covered in that module. So at the end of level 2 primarily is a review test of 4 questions, just reviewing something you've already learned. So it's not an exam or anything, it's just to help you refresh and review. Less of this in level 2 because there's more clinical stuff to practice and work with anyway. But this is where we go into more depth about understanding the trauma side of it more, understanding how to keep yourself safe as a practitioner, as well as how to keep our patients safe. Going into code of conduct, scope of practice, very much very hot on the scope of practice. And just really making sure that everybody is learning and aware of how to ensure safety with their client before going on and talking about assessing them or going into their trauma or anything like that. And then the end of that all is there are assignments in level 3, but they're different from the level 2. So the assignments are things like there are recorded assessments, one that I did with a client and one that Carol Randall, another of our board members, undertook as well. So the assignment is to listen to the recording, having already learned all about the pre-assessment forms and how to assess people and how to keep safe, etc. Then that assignment is feeding back about your thoughts around that client, and you've got the pre-assessment forms for them, so you can look at them and you can ascertain what questions you feel you might like to ask, what you want to know more about, and then afterwards looking at the feedback and just deciding moving forward what would we be wanting to do with this client. So that's the main one for the assessments, and then there are others where we put like clinical situations, and then they respond and say, how would you deal with this? And again, by then they've learned everything, they've got a better understanding, and then we have like emails as well, so an email from a client and they respond to that, because then those are sent as an assignment for us to look through. Again, this is in itself, it's not a pass or fail, it's okay, really good, you did that's a really good suggestion, some great suggestions there. Have you thought about possibly maybe including this, that maybe you could do this? So all the time they're learning. It's not as such, it's like, where are you at the moment? And then a lot of people have said, oh yeah, that really helped them to open their mind to consider what else they could do moving forwards.
Well, it's almost a little bit, whilst it's not supervision, it's a little bit like supervision at that point. It's almost like actually, oh, this is an email I sent to a client. What do you think? Like if you were in supervision and you can discuss it. And I think, again, the supervision aspect of this is really important, because those of us that are mostly physical therapists, it's not a requirement within our in our practice to have. We now, with the osteopaths particularly, now have more peer assessment at the end of our CPD cycle, but essentially supervision is not a requirement currently to do that. And I think when you're starting to move, particularly, as I say, for those of us that are physical therapists, into the more psychological aspect of this, that's really the supervision and things, and that support is really important. But I have to say, sometimes I think people worry that that this is all about the psychology, and I think it's not. We are not becoming psychologists. What we are doing is having an understanding of the psychology, but bringing it back to the body. So it is about that mind-body connection, and about the felt sense of that, and how people are experiencing that. And I think, whilst we talk about emotions, and we might, like you say, we might talk about personality traits, and we will talk about, with some people about trauma, it's not, oh, let's talk about your trauma and let's kind of go down the rabbit hole of your trauma and let's just talk about that. It's actually, no, we've got a real awareness of that. We've really understood and heard that. Now, it may be that at that point, there are, the beautiful thing about the level 3 is, it gets introduced before, but in level 3, it's about those bringing in those techniques and those tools and those ways that people are going to feel safe in their body. It's about, actually, they've experienced this. They know what they've experienced very often. They are not necessarily always aware of the fact that is making them feel how they feel. They know how they think they feel. And I don't mean that in a way that they don't know, but they don't necessarily relate that to how their body is experiencing what they've been through. And I think that is, again, the beauty of this is actually, we see people in practice who are experiencing pain because essentially they are reacting to what has happened to them. And this allows us to help them unpick and recognize that, and actually to change it. And that is, that's the magic of it, the scientifically based magic, of course, but it is that, it's that wonderfulness of people kind of going, I was just thinking about it before, it's that, even when you were talking about level 1 and the experiential sense of level 1, until you sometimes sit there and do those exercises yourself, you sit and think, oh, I didn't realize that I didn't feel safe in my body, or that actually I find finding safety in my body really difficult, or actually that I didn't really need that. I needed to pause and breathe and reassure myself. I hadn't, you don't necessarily, even as a practitioner, know that. And suddenly you're like, oh, hang on a minute. And as I say, that builds as you go through the levels. And as I say, particularly then in the level 3, I think it really kind of cements that knowledge of being able to work, like you say, one-to-one with people, whilst dealing with their emotions. Because I think particularly, again, I can talk only really for osteopaths, but we've become much more, I think it's more than osteopaths, but we've become, in the physical therapy world particularly, we've become more aware of the biopsychosocial aspect of pain. But what has happened is we've become, I was talking to somebody about it the other day, so they said, well, osteopaths, we're quite good at the biopsychosocial. Yeah, we're really great at recognizing it. We can see that there are components that are actually involved in it, that are influencing that person's life, but we don't have the tools to then necessarily change how they're reacting. We can't change their lifestyle, their social situation, the stressors they're experiencing, but actually we can change the way that they are responding and reacting, you know, or help them to change the way that they're responding and reacting to that. And then I think the bit that we add is obviously is the emotion and the trauma aspect, but safely. And I think that, you know, we're aware of it in practice. And sometimes we, you know, this patient comes in and they break down because you've touched their shoulder and we don't really know why. Actually, this is the bit that brings this all together. And you're like, okay, now we know why. Let's just step back from that. Let's, you know, let's explain it. Let's make that okay. Let's make us understand that. And that is just the beauty of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And we, in essence, are working on the physiology of the body in response to stress and trauma. Yeah. And it isn't, like you said, we don't need to go into all the trauma. You know, this is not talk therapy, and psychotherapists might integrate some of that, but on the whole, yes, we're helping them look at the timelines, make the connections, but also to work on the physiology of the body to help them come out of this fight or flight or freeze, to actually be able to self-soothe. And it's about teaching the practitioners to actually understand how to do that themselves, and then how to do that with their clients as well. And I'm very aware we've got some people who've joined us as well. So if you've got any questions, so we're so busy chatting together, we're not ignoring you. If you've got any questions at all, please do just put some questions in. Otherwise, we'll keep talking generally. And it just happens that my background is physiotherapy. I'm a physio, you're an osteopath. But this is, you know, people, I think there's a lot of fear around the physical therapists, especially with coming into this, because I think, oh, you're working with trauma. Or I think the worst thing when I started this, well, 15, 17 years ago was, it was talking about emotions. Yeah, I know. And you know, this is, I think I love the fact that the trauma field has evolved as well over the last 10, 15 years as well, giving us these wonderful calming strategies and ways to help people learn to self-soothe. And the emphasis of all of this is helping our clients become self-empowered and have agency over their body, while helping them resolve their symptoms and regain their lives.
And I think it's interesting you just said that, actually. I think sometimes I think people, there's a concern from maybe some of the osteopaths that actually if you do this work, you're not doing what you do. You're not doing the osteopathy. You're not doing the hands-on. You're not doing the thing you trained to do. And actually, I describe myself as a stick of rock. It says osteopath the whole way through. Do you know what I mean? Wherever you stop, it says osteopath. You know, absolutely with the program. But this is like, I'm going to change my food analogies here. It's like that, you know, that's the cake. This is like the icing. This is like the little bit on the top, or the last piece of the jigsaw. This is the bit that for me personally, certainly was the bit that kind of just started to tie things together for those patients that don't get better. When you treat them physically, you're doing beautiful hands-on work. You're doing, you know, that wonderful, you're engaging with them. And I think particularly in private practice, we're very lucky that we get to spend more time with people. And I think even just the chatting has been helpful. And I think that's why people do feel safe and when they come to us, and it's great. But it's, I think it's just that added bit and understanding it and not being frightened of it and being able to offer people, like you say, things that are going to soothe their body rather than just go away and do yoga or go away and do meditation, because some people can't reach that. But I think, yeah, that's what it's brought for me. And I just see actually Cheryl's just put up a question there about, is the concern about getting the balance right. Some symptoms are physical and things can get missed if you're looking for psychosomatic causation. I don't know if you want to talk about fit protocols and things, Georgie.
I think a little, but I think the main thing is that when we're doing this work, we're ruling out red flags. Red flag is a big thing that we would look at, both mental health and physical red flags. So we are not assuming and just looking for the psychosomatic or psychosocial side of things. We're very much looking at what's going on as far as, have things been ruled out? And then we start looking at how can we rule it in. And there are a lot of fit criteria that you talk about, Pippa. Howard Schubiner, who's one of the specialists in the States, he developed this. And it's, right, let's get this right. The first one's functional, intermittent. What's the third T?
I can never remember the T.
Because I tend to sort of bring them all in anyway. It's in the training. But I tend generally they get merged from the way that I look at them. But basically, it's looking at how are they, how is it functionally, or are the symptoms intermittent? For example, are they, did the symptom, what's it somebody was talking to me about this morning, the fact that, oh yes, okay, got one, that Irili, who's on our board as well, but this morning was saying that she'd seen a client who was diagnosed with arthritis, and significantly, thank you, Cheryl, significantly worse after being told that she shouldn't be running, she shouldn't be doing any exercise because of the wear and tear. No, actually, that's completely wrong when you look at the evidence around arthritis now. And in fact, Flipping Pain, the organisation launched a video around called Flipping Arthritis, which turns things on its head. So I think it's really, it's about really looking at what does it fit around. If somebody's getting pain, or not just pain, but any other symptom, in maybe you've got hay fever, but you don't get it in the middle of a field of flowers, but you get it in the evening indoors, and that does happen. If you get pain that at the beginning, or your symptom, whatever it is gets easier at the end of the week, or gets worse at the beginning of the weekend, or you develop neuropathic pain, which one of my clients did while driving in the car, you've got to start questioning that. And I think what we're trying to do is getting people to question more. What's the timing? Does it fit with the diagnosis they've been told? For example, so many people come to me saying, I've got sciatica. Symptoms don't fit the actual sciatica. So, okay, you've got pain in your knee. No, that's not sciatica. So do you want to carry on with this now, Pippa?
It's, I just looked it up. T is triggered. I thought we can't. Yes, it works in the same thing. Yeah, of course it's triggered. Yeah, it's that thing, like you say, the important part of this, I think, is the fact that actually, absolutely, we're looking at ruling out the red flags. Absolutely, that's really important, and that's a really big part of the training. But it's also then, as I say, is the patient, are the symptoms inconsistent? Are they triggered by something that is not actually not necessarily an action, but even if it is an action, actually the biology and the neurobiology behind that is different. It's like about the stimulation, it's about why that's happening. So I think it's the whole that aspect of ruling the red flags out and ruling in, whether it's a TMS issue.
And sadly, it's too often missed. So if you're not even considering that, then if somebody has chronic pain, and the underlying emotional cause or past stress or whatever the link is there is not addressed, then it will just be managed. And so it needs to be included in the considerations.
Yeah, no, definitely. We had a couple of questions. I don't know if there's any more questions coming in from the people watching now.
So Cheryl's just saying she missed the beginning and a bit about opening SIRPA certification to non-clinicians. I'm afraid I'm not going to repeat it all, Cheryl, because this is recorded and you can look back. All I would say is that if somebody is not eligible for level 3 but wants to do it, the quickest way is actually to end up doing going on a coaching qualification, so health coaching qualification. We've got, so if you want to get in touch, if anybody's interested about that, then we do have a number that have been recommended by some of our practitioners who did end up doing coaching courses. And the minimum level of that is a diploma with clinical experience with clients and supervision, so that they're learning as they go along. So they've had that clinical experience and they're end up being regulated and insured as well.
And I think that's, like you said, I think one of the important things, which we have touched on, you mentioned before, is about that scope of practice. You know, even those of us that have perhaps been doing this for quite a long time, sometimes certainly as a physical therapist and an osteopath, I know that I need to refer on to a colleague, a SIRPA colleague, who is perhaps a psychotherapist, because actually it's very much, there's a level at which it's then going outside of my feeling safe in my scope of practice. So I think and I think that comes with time and you know, experience and stuff like that. And the organisation SIRPA is obviously always there to support people through that journey. So
many people pop into the membership group and just say, you know, this is a client, should I take them on, or can I refer on, or, you know, any questions like that is always put in our membership group on Facebook.
Yeah, no, brilliant. We had a couple of questions from before. I think you've answered the one about, are there any examinations? No, we talked about there are assignments and quizzes and case studies. What if my first language isn't English? Would I be able to cope?
Oh yes, that was a question that we were asked. I think you'd struggle. I don't think I'd want to do that. But if somebody's desperate to do it, because I know there's a limitation of these courses in other languages. I think Hebrew, there's one in Israel now, but other than that, I'm not sure. There might be an introductory course in Holland, so a Dutch one. But other than that, what we've done this time is made sure that every video has a transcript. So if somebody was desperate, they could download the transcript and then use Google Translate to translate the transcript. Or if it's a video that we've got a link from YouTube, then they can go onto YouTube and they can use the, what's it called?
The captions.
Captions, yeah, in their language. But other than that, everything is in English, obviously. But there may be ways, it would be time consuming, but there would be ways that they could translate everything if they wanted to.
Yeah, brilliant.
I suppose the difficulty then would be actually having supervision for the case studies with somebody who in your language. That might be the difficulty in level 3.
Yeah, no, definitely. Again, I don't know if there's anybody out there with any questions. Do feel free to put them in the comments box. Otherwise, you are just going to get more of me and Georgie.
We have to go on and on unless it's relevant. We will point them out if necessary. But I think, yes, that was even at the end when what happens with the case studies is people complete level 3, the theory, then they go away and they do their case studies with the supervision. The supervisor then will feed back to me, and then I will go through the case studies as well, and then I will arrange a chat with the supervisee, so the person who's done the case studies, and we just have a half-hour chat to discuss their learnings, how they found it. Again, it's not an exam. You know, we're not insured as a qualification body, so we are not like you trained to be a physio, trained to be an osteopath. This is why when it comes to level 3, we will only take people who've already got a qualification to work clinically, and because the insurance would be horrendous if we did a regulated qualified course. Hence we tend to call it more that we've got CPD courses rather than training as such.
But again, it's back to your professionalism, you know, your skill and your scope of practice as to how much you integrate or don't integrate. And again, there's a really great flow chart actually that you've produced for level 3. Say again?
We did ones for level 2 and we did ones for level 3.
I particularly was looking at the level 3 one the other day, and I like the fact that the bit at the beginning, I haven't got it in front of me, but it's the other thing too with this process of this, you know, bringing this to patients essentially is some people are not ready. So some people are, you know, you can introduce it and they're not ready. And I love the fact, and as I say in the flowchart, it kind of talks you through that part of the process of like, so you might find that somebody comes and you introduce it and they're actually not interested, and you go back to doing your osteopathy, your physio, your whatever else that you do with them, because it actually they're you know, they're just not in the place to hear that. And it may be that they come back round later, or there may be that you go back to treating it, you know, from a musculoskeletal position. Sometimes that, you know, you can then introduce little bits of it, but you're not sort of treating them as a as a SIRPA client as such. And then, as I say, but often over time, when they then perhaps don't get, don't show the improvement that they want just with that approach, then actually they'll come back a bit later when they feel ready, or they feel more, more ready to be able to engage with it, which is
what happens is, while you're doing your hands-on, you're talking, they're gaining trust, that you're building the therapeutic alliance, and often that's the time when things start, you're sowing seeds. But there are many of our practitioners, it's not either or, is it? Many practitioners, it's about, the SIRPA courses are about integrating this approach into their own work. It's not about either or. And some people love their hands-on, and some people just feel like, you know what, I'm really keen on only working with people who are ready for this approach. Everybody's an individual. Some people like working with groups, some people like working in individuals, some people online, some face-to-face. And this is again where the level 3 comes in that we have Zoe Thompson, who used to work with SIRPA for 7 years, and her background was, well, she's got a corporate background and hypnotherapist, but she actually runs a business, Build It Brilliant, which actually she works with therapists, with clinicians, to really drill down into how do they want to work, as well as helping with the technical side and things. And she's recorded some videos that we're using within level 3 and within a section which we've added to our membership, a business section, which is how to move forward with your business, and how to decide who you're going to work with. So there's an awful lot there. The other thing I remembered when you were saying that, Pippa, was I know you've done one, is that we've got quite a few experienced practitioners who've recorded a 5-minute video about how you've integrated this approach into your own work. We also in level 2 have, for example, a massage therapist, Pilates teacher, yoga teacher, to demonstrate how to integrate a SIRPA-informed approach within their work as well. So there's an awful lot of information, support and guidance.
And as I say, for me in practice, it was, I came to SIRPA with I had chronic pain. That was, I came kind of with 2 hats on, but I think it has elevated our practice. I almost can't describe how, but we have changed our language. We are now not misinforming people about what we think is going on physically, which doesn't actually tally, but that was what we had been taught, if that makes sense. So yes, there's still tightness in the body. There's still things that we do hands-on, but we're thinking about that with very much a nervous system informed head on, if that makes sense. You might still be doing some sort of massage, but actually what you're doing is saying, actually, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I know that you have had this experience that meant that your body has gone into fight or flight, and therefore you're exhibiting higher levels of tension within your muscles because you are ready. You're on that alert. And yes, we could have just worked harder at it physically, but actually that doesn't change it. So even if we almost are doing exactly the same thing, our intention of why, because of this knowledge, is different, and that it changes the outcomes massively.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think there's no doubt about it. The pain science is evolving anyway. We include in this work Lorimer Mosley's work, Peter O'Sullivan's cognitive behavioural approach. It's all grounded on real scientific evidence, whether it's the pain science and the trauma science. And I think the people think, well, they get fearful of just the fact that we're talking about emotions and trauma, but we're talking about the physiology of the body and why the body is protecting us. And if the body is massively protecting you with fibromyalgia or whatever, and you're just treating it in a physical way without actually really understanding why your brain feels you need to be protected, then you're going to have problems. And so this is about helping those people.
Yeah, and as I say, even if actually you do carry on working in the way that you were working, again, speaking hands-on, there's also that, like you say, just those little nuggets of information that you can bring. Actually, what I'd love you to do is just go home, and I'd love you just to do a minute of just deep belly breathing, something that's just going to ground you into your system. Not let's go digging in there to see what we can find, but actually, let's this is something that I'm going to give you this tool that you can take home and you can do almost anywhere that you are, that will just help to regulate your system. And what will happen is you'll come out away, you know, increase that window of tolerance, come away from that sense of sort of fight or flight or freeze or whatever they're in. And so it's, you know, it's great. And I mean, and then interesting enough, we have mentioned the trauma and that sort of side of things today. The other thing too is the aspect of teaching people's bodies how to change their pain, in the sense of sometimes people have kind of got this knowledge, they're perhaps not in a trauma response, but for some reason the cycle has got stuck in their system, that the smoke alarm's still on, their body is still producing symptoms when it doesn't need to, just on movement sensation. And just even without necessarily exploring masses of the trauma, you can sometimes say, actually, what I'd like you to do every time you feel that sensation is this. You know, let's reassure the body. Let's give it cues of safety every time you move and you feel that. You now know that there's, you know, we've taught you the pain science, that actually there's probably no tissue damage going on. Now we're going to teach you how to reprocess that, so that actually, you know, so again, it's so broad ranging, the training, and I think that's where your clinical head has to come in, because actually we don't give a program, in some respects, we don't give the same treatment 1, we do this, treatment 2, we do that, treatment 3. Everybody's an individual. And so essentially what's beautiful about this is the scope of it means that you've got tools and techniques for everybody. So you can just kind of go, actually, that person needs that today. You know, that person who's got exactly the same symptoms, their story's different, they need this. But it's got all of that in the training, which is what I really love about it.
Yeah, definitely. Great. Well, thank you, Pippa, and thank you for those who have joined us. This is going to be recorded. It'll stay on the Facebook page, and we'll also put it on our YouTube page as well. But I hope that's helpful, and maybe some of you might join us. But we, as you can see, we're very passionate about this work.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.